Hello there, and welcome to the Terrace Scottish Football Podcast. My name is Craig Telfer, and right this very second, I am joined by my close associate, Sean McGuigan.
Hello there.
And you know what happens when the Jerry Lee Lewis and Myra Gale Brown of the Terrace get together? That's right, although we're cousins, first cousins, and only one of us is 13 years old, and although there is a substantial age difference between us, we're still going to explore the lower leagues of Scottish football, and maybe we might just have a laugh along the way. How does that sound, Sean?
It sounds class. I tell you what I have to ask. I am aware of that scenario that you've just described. How did that work legally?
I don't know. I just went to his Wikipedia page so I could get the name of his child bride to try and get a cheap laugh off you. I've no idea.
It's worked.
Yeah. Listener, if you know the lore of Jerry Lee Lewis, please do get in touch with myself and Sean. We're both deeply curious as to how he got away with it. Really, more to anything else. Remember, it was the one we had Bill Wyman and was it Mandy Collins? Was that her name?
Yes. Yeah. That felt wrong as well. Again, not sure how he got away with it legally.
No.
Was she 14 when they got together? Is that right?
I think that they'd known each other when she was quite young.
Yeah, that's not right.
Yes, but nevertheless, although you might frown upon Jerry Lee Lewis and Myra Gale Brown's union, please don't frown about my union with Sean. We're just here to have a laugh and just talk about the football along the way. That's all we're interested in. That's all we're interested in. Now, Sean, you and I are going to be doing a patented 3-game roundup. It is patented. It is our IP. We'll be looking at one match from the Championship, another from League One, and another from League Two. Sean, you've been absent for the past 2 weeks. You care to explain yourself?
Yeah, the only reason I wasn't on last week is because I suppose I was prepping for the TV show.
So was
That's
I.
why I wasn't on last week. Yeah, but you're just better than I suppose. I needed more time to prepare.
You've probably got more of a life than I do. I don't. I was actually glad I had this to do because it meant I could occupy my mind reading up about these games and kept the wolves from the door. So I've got that to be grateful for.
I do have to ask, because the last time I saw you was last Thursday. You dropped me off. Very good day. Thanks very much. You then may have created the world record for longest time to get out of a car. Must have took you a good 6 or 7 minutes due to your bad back. I thought I was going to have to assist you. I did offer help. You said you didn't need it. How is your back?
A lot better.
That's
lot
good.
better. Dear listener, I suffered a slipped disc on Tuesday last week. We're now 8 days beyond that. We're recording this on the Wednesday, the 9th of October. It's a lot better. I can stand up straight.
That's a start, isn't it?
It's a luxury, an absolute luxury. It's a lot better. I can move around more nimbly. I still need to bend from my knees and when I'm picking stuff up and all that, and I'm stretching when I wake up and before I go to bed, but it's a lot better. I was in absolute agony. Actually, after I left you, we went and watched the Hearts game, which was absolutely dreadful, and prior to, I left midway through to go and get some messages done before I could go and get the Rangers game. So I went to Tesco in Springburn, and there was a shuffling around the shop when I'd finished up. I don't laugh, but when I put my carrier bag in the back seat, I had a back spasm, and oh my goodness, it was agony. Like, I don't know if you ever had a back spasm. It feels like a firework going off inside your back.
I don't like the sound of that.
I had my hands up on the roof of the car thinking, right, just get your breath, right? Get really slowly into the car, nice and slow. And there's a back spasm right there, and then again, nearly greeting. I just wanted my mum to come and pick me up. I felt terrible.
Well, listen, if somebody said to me, Sean, how would you describe Craig G. Telfer in one word? I think the first word that springs to mind is nimble. So it's great to hear that you're getting back to that kind of category.
Yes, previously, if you'd seen me last week, you'd describe me as squat. And that's not an adjective that anyone wants to be described as. But no, I am back to my best, well, getting back to my best. So that's the most important thing. The better I am, the better this podcast will be. Now, just one thing to clear up from last week's show. Fraser Clark and I were comparing Stennismuir winger Scott Tomlinson to Luis Mendoza from D2 at the Mighty Ducks, a supremely fast skater who just couldn't stop. And we spoke about a training exercise where he had to brake in front of a wall made of soft juice cans. And I kept wondering why the USA coaching staff didn't just use a large cone instead. But someone called Kevin Gallagher got in touch with Twitter and said the reason they used cans of juice instead of a big cone was to incentivise him not to hit them. is if it was him that had to set them back up. If he only had one big cone, it's not as annoying if he fails.
Ah, well, so that's quite ingenious actually from the coach.
It worked in the end, because I'm sure there's a scene where Luis Mendoza, he's clean through in goal, breaks and sends all this ice up into the goalkeeper's face, just passes it into the net.
I think I've seen that clip. Was a coach in D2 still Emilio Estevez? It's not a franchise I'm familiar with.
No, it's very much still Emilio Estevez, Gordon Bombay. It always worked. It didn't blow my mind. Not like Danny Dyer confused about 9/11 atrocities, but it confused me that when Gordon Bombay was promoted to the coach of the United States, you've got access to the best young players, presumably on the planet, because ice hockey's only played in a small number of countries. Why on earth would you want to fill up the team with the No Hope Mighty Ducks when you've got access to all these great players?
Doesn't make a lot of sense. I also see when you talked about Danny Dyer getting all confused about 9/11, it occurred to me that the two things that Danny Dyer is most confused of is 9/11 and the close proximity of Dens Park and Tannadice.
Yes, that's right. Imagine he saw two hijacked jetliners being flown into Tannadice Street.
Much more difficult targets.
Yeah. Aye, it's a frightening thought. It's a frightening thought. There, by the grace of God, go at the Dundonians. But Sean, enough.
What would Jim Spence make of that, I wonder?
I won't say any more about Jim Spence, but what I will say is I'm very much looking forward to go and see him in conversation with Paul Mitchell next month. I think that's going to be a humdinger of an event.
You've got 87 tickets.
Yes, well, actually, you're making fun there, Sean. I've actually got 92 because there's a couple of people got in touch and were looking for spares. So, Jim, me and all the lads will see you there. Looking to get your opinions on the ever-shifting landscape of Scottish society. Sean, while me and my 92 friends are preparing for this event, let's go to the championship, and we could talk about the top of the table clash between Falkirk and Ayr United. We could talk about the light show at the Falkirk Stadium on Tuesday night when the Bairns took on Livingston, but we're not going to do that. I think we've spoken quite enough about Falkirk recently, and so we'll go right to the very bottom of the table. This is Ayr Geonians and Dunfermline Athletic. They played out a 1-1 draw at the Excelsior, with Mason Hancock's close range header cancelling out Chris Kane's first half penalty. The draw doesn't really do much for either side. They're both still bottom of the table with 5 points apiece, but Dunfermline are in ninth, courtesy of a superior goal difference. Sean, give me your shoot thoughts on Ayr Geonians 1, Dunfermline Athletic 1.
It's funny, after I watched this, I was like, I feel like I have watched this kind of highlights package, specifically from the championship, umpteen times now. And it was like 9 minutes of very little happening. And I think you can, from what you can see, you can kind of understand why they are where they are in the table, kind of 10th and 9th. Not too far away from a number of teams above them though. But in terms of creativity, creating chances and goal scorers, I think both teams are sadly lacking. And it's like when McCabe was talking about, like when what he was complimenting his players was on things like endeavour and effort, and then all these criticisms was about decision making and composure. And I think that kind of sums up where I noticed Airdrie but Dunfermline are, like where both of them are at this moment in time.
I didn't particularly enjoy this highlights package. No, sorry, that sounds bad. That's not I mean critical of Airdrie. I didn't enjoy Dean McMaster's co-commentary, I'll say that. I think that...
it was just him making noises.
Yeah. It sounded like, if you didn't know any better, it was like Dean McMaster on Hot Wings. But there was no visual element to it. It was just his reaction to eating increasingly spicy chicken wings. No, Airdrie have got very good highlights package. That sounded bad. I didn't. There's not a lot to talk about here. I think is the point. I suppose if I had anything to say, I thought Mason Hancock looked excellent going by these highlights. I think that any time Airdrie went forward, it was always down the left hand side, and he was certainly involved. He got the equalising goal that got them the point. But I didn't really see much here that I found all that interesting. So it sounds bad, but I'm kind of hoping you can do a lot of the heavy lifting with this one, Sean. I mean, you've played you've played both sides already. You've seen both sides with Wraith Rovers. I mean, did you, when after watching them, did you expect both teams to be down towards the foot of the table?
In terms of the opening day of the season, so I did watch the field. I wasn't at the game, but I managed to get a stream of the opening day of the season. And Ian Murray afterwards said it was two poor teams, and I did wonder if that was. It felt like a kind of something that a manager comes out with just when they're a bit annoyed, like, because you kind of hear managers say, "Oh, it was two poor teams." That wasn't necessarily the case, but I think obviously the longer the season has went on, he was probably right. And as much as Airdrie were the better team on the opening day, had plenty of possession, didn't create too many chances, and I suppose ultimately was very similar to this game. I thought they looked at the better side against Dunfermline. Dunfermline had one wee bit of quality, I suppose, with how they got the penalty. I thought,
it's a really, really good pass there from Craig Whiting.
Yeah. Craig Whiting done well to kind of win it back initially, receive the pass back again, then a good through ball. I think it was Comrie that got brought down for the penalty. That was a good wee bit of play. Other than that, certainly for the kind of 9 or 10 minutes I watched, Dunfermline created very, very little. And as much as Airdrie were the better team, again, it was all half chances defending from Dunfermline for Hancock's equaliser was dreadful. He stood completely on his own up in the middle of the Dunfermline penalty area for ages before the ball eventually broke to him. But I think looking at the two teams, as much as Airdrie are bottom right now, based on that, and maybe even the week before, I thought that Airdrie were unlucky to lose against Livingston. That maybe Airdrie are the one that might have a wee bit of a better chance to pull away for the bottom. Yeah,
that certainly sounds right. What about Dunfermline then? Because I'm trying to think that, going by the highlights here, I think that chances were really few and far between. Craig Whiting's pass, that was a really nice, but I really like passes like that go between the centre back and full back where someone's nipped in behind, and that was a really, really lovely pass, and Comrie did well to get a toe on it there. Just Murray Johnson, just a little bit too late. Other than that, though, they didn't really seem to contribute much. I think most of the chances were from Airdrie perspective. Like, for instance, you had Dylan McDonald was unmarked at the back post, hit a shot. Aaron Reid might have had a penalty. Chris Hamilton seemed to, I thought that Chris Hamilton put his hands on him, but he seemed to put his hands on his hips, and he went down from there. I'm not sure if there was much contact with that, but certainly it was contact, but not enough to disrupt his movement. And then there was Frizzell had a shot towards the end of the game that narrowly went over the bar. That was about it, really.
Yeah.
And I can see, reading the comments on Pie and Ball, reading the comments on social media from Dunfermline fans, they're all just a bit fed up.
And rightly so. I mean, last season was a huge disappointment. This season has started in a very, very similar vein. Is it something like 7 wins in 2024 or something like that for Dunfermline?
That.
And I think both teams are in a similar position for slightly different reasons. I think when it comes to Dunfermline, they still have that kind of German contingent on the board who have obviously announced their intention to leave, but presumably that's been on the back burner for a while. Presumably they've thought about the fact that maybe they were looking to go, and I think because of that, they've probably held a pretty tight control of the purse strings. Why you want to invest more money in a club that you don't really want to be at anymore. So I do have sympathy for McPake in terms of, I don't think he's been able to do what he wants to do in the transfer market. So I've got sympathy for McPake for that. I think in terms of Airdrie, what McCabe is up against now is he had a very, very stable squad of players that he took over, led them from League One into the Championship, and then essentially the same squad done very well again last season.
Mm-hmm.
He is then, either through necessity or by design, has had to turn that squad over. But I think Airdrie will have the lowest budget in the league and therefore pay the lowest wages in the league. And so I would imagine that if let's say they're interested in a player and Partick Thistle are also interested in that player, I'd imagine they go to Partick Thistle. So they're probably trying to put a squad together that if anybody else in the Championship are interested in those players, they'll struggle to land them. So that puts them in a very, very awkward situation. I think Airdrie arguably now have a poorer squad than what got them promoted for League One.
Yeah, do you reckon?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, certainly if you look at their options up front, I think McGill, Gallagher,
Todorov,
Smith, Todorov. No, was Todorov with them in League One?
I beg your pardon, I can't remember. Charlie Telfer's with him in League One though. Like
yes,
Cammy Ballantyne.
Yeah. I mean, I think that
Callum Fordyce.
I think they're a stronger side. Listen, they've brought in a lot of players that we don't know too much about, and they could kick on, they could adjust to the level that they're now at in the Championship. But ultimately, Airdrie are the squad that Airdrie have put together is what they can afford, and if that means they're going to be a poor Championship squad, then that's what it's going to be. But I suppose they're living by their means, and that's absolutely fine. But from McCabe's perspective, that must be hugely frustrating.
I just imagine Jackie McNamara driving like a transit van up to the Excelsior, getting out, slapping the side of the van, and all these bewildered 19-year-old football players get out, and he's like, "Reese, which one you wanting? Which one you want?" And he's like Proximo and Gladiator. He kind of slaps him about a bit, throws dust in him, and says, "I'll take the pair of them." But then he says to Jackie McNamara, he says, "Those giraffes you sold me were gay," or something along those lines. Like, I don't know. I don't know. But yes, it's an interesting relationship. That I do find that fascinating. Every time we talk about Airdrie, you have to talk about the transfers and so on. I do find that relationship between the club and Concilium, I imagine it's a relationship that works until it no longer works. I know that's a pretty cliched thing to say, but when you're replacing like pretty good players with guys that have got potential, and there are a lot of players that think Ben Wilson, Aidan Wilson, Reece Armstrong, all guys that have shown in flashes what they're capable of for Airdrie, but as you say, you're like guys like Charlie Telfer and so on, Cammy Ballantyne, guys who are just experienced lower league operators. Always difficult to try and upgrade in these guys, particularly when you've got a very small budget to do so.
Mm-hmm. And I do think on the plus side for both teams, I don't think they have to improve by much to get away from the position that they're currently in, because I think there's a number of teams that are in pretty much the same boat. Wraith, right, okay, you can say on paper they've probably got a better squad. Certainly I'm getting the results that would suggest that, though, at this moment in time. Morton, I know they've brought in Stuparevic on loan from Motherwell. Maybe he'll make a difference. He's got a good goal at the weekend, to be fair. Hamilton, like there's a number of teams that are very much catchable, and I don't think anybody in the Championship is going to get detached, because I think there's like the width of a fag paper amongst a number of teams, but more so at the bottom rather than the top.
I would worry, and it's interesting you say that, because I've got down here my notes about Rhys McCabe's reputation as one of the brightest young managers in Scotland is in danger of being tarnished. Now, when you factor in all those things there, such as a lot of your better players have left, it's difficult to try and replace them. Then there's injuries have been a factor. I think Airdrie have been badly hit with injuries this season. When you just, if you didn't know that and just look from the outside in, you'd be like, wow, I thought Airdrie were a good team. We hear how great a manager Rhys McCabe is, but the team's down towards the foot of the table. The team is at the foot of the table. What's gone wrong? He must not be as good as we all thought he was. And then you wonder if like McCabe had maybe left when his stock was at the highest, but then where would you have gone if you did leave Airdrie? It's very interesting just how he is now perceived. Because it's very easy to just be like, you were good last season, you're shite now.
Yeah, I totally agree. I would imagine that there might be, let's say there was somebody at the bottom. I said, like St Johnstone, for example. Would they have been more interested in McCabe in July than they were in September? I would imagine so. But then I suppose that's why you have an interview process. So you bring McCabe in, he impresses in an interview, he explains maybe why Airdrie haven't been doing as well this season. But no, I think in terms of the immediacy of just looking at who they are fancy in terms of bringing in, then I think McCabe has probably dropped quite a bit.
Yeah, Hancock does look good though. We mentioned him earlier in the highlights. There was a really nice piece of play where he got the ball played into him and he flicked it with his back heel. Yeah, yep. And he set up. It was a bit of a half chance. It's quite a difficult chance for Aaron Reid to try and attack. But just any time you see him, he just looks really, really good. He looks like custom built for a left wing back position where you can motor up and down the pitch all day. Obviously, he's a good defender, but defending's not really sexy. It's the stuff he can do at the other end. And he was forever bursting into that Dunfermline penalty box there and trying to make stuff happen. And he capped it off with a, yes, the defending, I would say the defending was questionable. The defending isn't questionable because there was none, really. There's a bit where, so just taking the conversation off another tangent, but where like Aaron Comrie looks round and he realises, I've got someone in front of me, I've got someone behind me, and he's in two minds, and I suppose he's got to try and attack Reid because he's the most obvious danger, given he's the taller of the two. And I think it's perhaps a degree of fortune the ball seems to flick off Reid's head and it's just bounce up. On top of that, very nice finish from Hancock as well, because it'd be very easy to just head that straight, and Mehmet does his best to come out and try and make himself as big as possible, but it's a very cute little finish just to nudge it past him.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, we've spoke at length about a left back that's impressed us in the Championship for a few years now in terms of Harry Milne. I suppose I'm still a wee bit surprised that Milne is still at Championship level, but actually I think Hancock is now overtaken him in terms of the best fullback in that division, and I think Airdrie fans should enjoy him, because I wouldn't be surprised. I would be amazed if he wouldn't be there. Listen, he wouldn't be there next season, and I wouldn't be surprised if somebody maybe puts in a bid for him in January.
Dennis Mehmet's goalkeeper kit makes him look like Kick-Ass.
You know, the biggest relief I had from watching these highlights was that Mehmet wasn't at fault for the goal, or wasn't hugely at fault for the goal.
You can't blame Dennis Mehmet for that.
And I just feel really sorry for him. Like it looks like he has really terrible Saturday afternoons.
And he looks even worse now. Like now he's dressed in that horrible green and yellow goalie top. I liked Hancock's celebration as well, just shushing the Airdrie fans behind the goal. Thought forgiven the fact there's probably very little animosity between them, just thought, why not just run past, finger at the lips? Why not?
Talking about celebrations of that ilk, did you see Ethan Ross's celebration after his first goal against Ayr on Saturday?
I did, and I liked it.
He seemed to be, maybe it was just the angle that the camera was looking across, but he seemed to be bending it right up a family of four.
What's that?
One child looked about 3, another child looked about 18 months.
I need to know what Ethan Ross's problem is with that young family. If anyone knows, do get in touch with myself and Sean. We'll read it out in next week's podcast. Now, the Diamonds and the Pars, they are both in Challenge Cup action, or SPFL Trust Trophy Cup action at the weekend. And both have got quite interesting ties. Airdronians are taking on East Kilbride, a side who they thrashed 8-0 in the League Cup group stages. Whereas Dunfermline Athletic, they've got a particularly tricky tie against Kelty Hearts. We're going to come on and discuss them very shortly. But what do you rate the prospects of the two teams in this tournament?
Airdrie will win. Airdrie will beat East Kilbride quite comfortably. I think there is a chance that Dunfermline lose against Kelty. They've already got a fairly shoddy record against lower league sides in cup competitions this season. And I don't think it will happen. And I don't know how many times it has happened, but do you think if that did come to pass, that McPake would lose his job on the back of a defeat in the Challenge Cup?
No, I don't think so. I think that it feeds in. If you win it, brilliant. You're into the fourth round. Mm-hmm. You're into the fourth round. Great. Let's see how far we can get. However, you lose it, be like, right, you weigh up the credits and debits of what James McPake's done, and very much in the doubt, he lost to bloody Kelty in the Challenge Cup. Unacceptable. It's funny because the Challenge Cup, it's a competition that matters when you want it to matter. It's the sort of thing that if you like a manager or you like a group of players, and you want to use it for an argument for something, it does become quite valuable. But then other times when it's not, it's just a Challenge Cup. You can just completely disregard it. So it's how you want to use it. I don't think a manager would ever get sacked off the back of a poor performance in the Challenge Cup, but I don't think it would do anything to quell the noise around him.
I think what will happen is he will stumble on until Dunfermline have new owners or a new board or whatever. I mean, I know there was an announcement that they are in discussion with, I think it was maybe like 3 potential parties that want to get involved. You would imagine when they are appointed, or if one of them does go through, then then they'll take stock of wherever they're filming at that moment in time. And you would imagine they'll give them a period of time, but they will probably have ideas about their own man at that point. So I suppose when a new board does come in, that's when Mick Paik might be in a bit of bother, I suspect.
The thing I'm most interested in is whether or not East Kilbride play as badly as they did when they met Airdrie a couple of months ago. Because that performance in the 8-0, holy fuck, that was something else. That was really, really bad. And I know that there's perhaps a degree of admiralty, is that a word? There's something to admire about a man who sticks to his principles despite in the overwhelming face of overwhelming evidence that what you're doing isn't working. But the way that Mick Kennedy approached that game, tried to get his players to pass out from the back when it was very, very obvious early doors that they just couldn't do what he was asking them to do.
It'd be absolutely class if he just does the exact same again. Another 7 or 8, very funny.
Some of the goals they lost in that game, oh my goodness. I know they've brought a new goalkeeper, and I think it's a boy they've got on loan from Motherwell who's replaced David Wilson. And it sounds bad, but any time the rare occasions that we mention David Wilson in this podcast, it's never anything positive. I'm so sorry, David. It really is nothing personal. It's just that you keep making mistakes week after week after week. But no more. They've got another young goalkeeper, and they seem to be doing quite well. I think they're top of the Lowland League at the moment, East Kilbride.
I think when I checked last time, was it Caledonia Braves that were top?
Caledonian Braves are top.
But
Yes.
that may be changed at the weekend, I'm not sure.
No, you're absolutely correct. Caledonian Braves are top. They are 3 points ahead of East Kilbride, but they have played a game more. So certainly all to play for in the Lowland League and all to play for in the SPFL Trust Trophy Cup. Now, Sean, we mentioned Kelty Hearts, and although we spoke about them at length last week, myself and Fraser Clark, we simply could not ignore them after they recorded probably the most eye-catching result of the weekend, where they turned over Queen of the South 5-1 at Palmerston. Ross Cunningham and Scott Williamson scored 2 goals each, and Samuel Harding helped himself to a close-range header, and Mikey Hewitt could only grab a consolation for the Doonhamers, who lost Matty Douglas after he was booked twice. As Kelty Hearts finished the first quarter top of the division, and Queen of the South are in 4, but it doesn't really mean much at this stage. League position in this division doesn't really matter because there's 1 point between them. I was thinking, you tell people that Stennisweer are in second place, Stenny are in second. So is everyone else though. It's still, you know something, of all the divisions, you look across the divisions and you get an idea, these are the teams that are going to be competing at the top end. Like Celtic, Falkirk, Peterhead, East Fife, Ayr United. These are the teams you can go across the 4 divisions we got an idea who's going to be there or thereabouts come the end of the season. I think you look at League One, and I don't think you'd be a very ambitious person to suggest that Kelty and Stenny are going to finish first and second in the division this year.
No, totally. But I suppose if there was ever going to be a shock winner of the third tier, then it's probably going to be this one in terms of... So the teams that you maybe fancied, and I know we didn't necessarily fancy Inverness. However, not only have they started poorly, almost certainly going to go into admin, then a points deduction, so we can rule them out. Queen of South, to be fair, they've done pretty well this quarter, but that was a hammer and a half at the weekend. Arbroath seem to have kind of come into a bit of form, but started the season so poorly. So it's such an open field that although I still would struggle to put any money on Kelty or Stenny to win the league, or even Alloa, for example, then who knows? Maybe this might be the season for it. But I suppose I'm now starting to come round to the idea that Kelty might actually be quite good. I saw
Kelty are really good.
I went to see them at Queen's Park for the League Cup, and they played decent football at times, but they were far inferior to I thought a reasonably poor looking Queen's Park side, and I thought they would absolutely, where they would definitely struggle this season is they wouldn't be able to score enough goals. Clearly another fantastic prediction for myself. But something like Ross Cunningham, he started the season reasonably slowly, I suppose, but it feels like he's really starting to kind of come into a game now.
Yeah, and I loved his first goal. But I mean, even if you want to jump back a step, Queen of the South had about 2 or 3, certainly 2 good chances to be ahead. Like there's definitely McKechnie has got a really good chance. Kieran McKechnie's got a good chance early doors, but he scoops his shot over the bar or just mishits it from close range. Benji Leeson, as it storms into the box, and I think he's forced wide a wee bit, and he shoots, and he just puts it wide of the post, and there's a header cleared off the line from a corner. But then after that, it's just his domination. Kelty absolutely smashed in that first half performance. There's not going to be many sides that are going to do that to Queen of the South. Scott Williamson, and Scott Williamson is the player I am really, really beginning to like. We spoke about him on length in last week's podcast. We're going to speak about him on length here. But just in terms of his hard work and endeavour, he was so good here. Such a difficult player to play against. I mean, he gets fed the ball down the right. And what I really liked about this is he kind of yanks the ball is the wrong word, but he kind of forces his body to and it's hard to see. You need to see the highlights to know what I mean. But he forces his body. It's almost like he judders, and his right leg just plays it to the penalty box, and there's Ross Cunningham just arriving like primetime Frank Lampard just to slam that ball low and into the net. But it's a really sorry. So I've got cramp in my groin there. It's okay.
I thought you were having a back spasm.
Yeah, no. It's my groin. Oh, geez. Oh, man, I was absolutely falling to bits. Yeah, there's a wee bonus ball for the listeners there of my body falling into dysfunction. Maybe that's I'm just really enjoying talking about Scott Williamson and Ross Cunningham that I'm cramping up. But it just shows that just how good an attacking unit they are and how hard working they are. And I think I'm talking away here, but if you want a perfect example of what exemplifies that, the second goal, it's the ball comes to Lewis O'Donnell, who thinks he's got time to launch up the park, but no, there's Craig Johnson. Just do it. See if Craig Johnson's coming out there just to get himself and try and block the ball. He gets a touch in it, and O'Donnell follows through, kicks him, and it's a penalty. It's a shite penalty, but it's a very clear and obvious penalty. But the fact that Johnson's got the desire and the application and the hard work just to get there, 9 times out of 10, O'Donnell thumps that ball down the park and Queens win possession or whatever. But the fact that Johnson is prepared to just gamble, take that chance and wins the penalty and gives his team a 2-goal lead, the fact that they have got those two forwards who work so incredibly hard for the team, it is such a boon for Michael Tidser.
Yeah, very much so. Going back to the penalties, I really like Kelty's highlights. I like the kind of interviews and stuff. I think it's a good package. So this isn't a criticism, but see the commentary for the penalty. So you're right. So O'Donnell goes to clear it. He catches kind of Johnson's boot. He kind of comes in unnoticed, I suppose. Catches him, and then the commentator says it was a lazy leg from O'Donnell, and I was like, that's not. I would say like a lazy leg is maybe trying to a token gesture at a tackle or blocking across. I wouldn't have used that to describe lazy leg. No, it's not. I think the commentators just got that one wrong. I don't think there's too much to read into that. It certainly wasn't a lazy leg. If anything, it was a very enthusiastic leg. It was just a mistimed enthusiastic leg. But the hard work as well. There's Scott Williamson for that third goal. It's like Brody Patterson tries to take the ball into the box, loses possession, and because there's a slight dithering there, I think it's between Matty Douglas and Oscar McIntyre, slight dithering as to who's going to clear the ball. There's Williamson, just more aggressive, more switched on the Queen's defenders, nips in, takes a touch, and it's quite a good finish from close range to beat Ross Stewart. And that's these 3 goals there, like the first goal there with Williamson working hard down the left-hand side of Craig Johnson just running, trying to get a block in there, winning the penalty, and then Williamson just taking a chance on some slack defending to finish. That sums up what Kelty can do and what these 2 strikers in particular can do. Yeah, very much so. They've been really, really impressive. And talking about aggression or being aggressive, I did enjoy the shouts from presumably somebody close to the camera from some old soak. Something, the first time I listened to it twice, and I initially thought it was a Queen's fan berating Queen's players, but it absolutely isn't. It's a Queen's fan berating Kelty.
Yes, it's I noticed this and clipped it and put it up on Twitter. last night when I was doing the research for this. You're the shitest team I've seen winning here. You're a bunch of posers. You're nobody.
I mean, is there anybody in League One who is anybody? Like, with the greatest will in the world. I can't imagine. I'm struggling to believe that anybody in the Kelty team is a huge poser.
I can imagine it. I think if you are a poser, then I'm sure very quickly you'll be slagged off and get that knocked right out of you. But no, I think that posing isn't something I would describe from this Kelty side. I would describe them as a very strong, very functioning unit that are spearheaded by two guys that will run through brick walls for the team. I think there's a lot to like about them. We talked about like the funny shout from the Queen's fans. One of the things I found really funny, it's like when Mikey Hewitt scored at the start of the second half to bring them back into it, you're like, well, you're 3-0 down, now it's 3-1. Let's just get the ball out the back of the net, stick it in the centre circle, let's get going. Nah, freed from desire by Gala starts booming out in stereo. There's a time and a place, sir.
Listen, he's been told he has to press that button every time Queen of South score, and by gum, he's going to do it.
What did you think of the other two goals? As Sam Harding got his first professional goal, heading home from close range. As I said, Tam O'Ware, the header hits the bar, comes out to Harding and he finishes, and Williamson gets his second of the game with a really, really nice finish. Great ball in from Murray Thomas. Really plays it into that corridor of uncertainty. I think it's where the goalkeepers and defenders hate, but two very certainly a well taken goal from Harding there, and a really well worked goal from Williamson to really put the gloss on it.
I thought both goals featured an unusual amount of appealing from Queen of South defenders. I couldn't quite see, because obviously it's a header from close range after it comes back off the bar from Harding. I couldn't really see a foul on anybody.
No, Ross Stewart was very keen to.
And then the last goal, you're right, so the ball was played in. I don't know if they were appealing for offside. It looked like there was two or three players playing them on. Maybe by that point it was desperation. But no, like the most impressive win in the lower leagues at the weekend. I'll be honest, at 3-1, I was seeing the scores coming through. I was like, oh, like maybe there could be a bit of a collapse from Kelty here, because this was not a scoreline that I saw coming. You're right, it was weird looking at reading the comments from Queen of South fans in terms of the first 20-25 minutes was as good as they've played all season. And then at the end, I'm getting an absolute shellacking. But no, it augurs well for Kelty. I still think that their best prospects is top four. And I still think Queen of South have got a good chance of winning the division. But it's such a tight division to call.
Yeah, definitely. And when he was asked after the game, Peter Murphy, like Sandra asked him, what did you make of that? It's like, oof. Like, that's the first noise that he made. And it's like, have you seen the gif of what was the Luis Felipe Scolari at the Brazil-Germany game where he's ooh. Similar on the lines to that. And I think that he said he described the game as a bit of an anomaly where everything that Kelty hit went in. And I'm going by the highlights, it certainly was the chances that they scored from. And he perhaps questioned whether or not his players are a wee bit arrogant and a wee bit overconfident going into this one, given how broadly, how well the season's been going for them so far. Yeah,
and he also he kind of took responsibility himself, and as well in terms of maybe how he set the team up. He done that thing. I never normally buy into it when a manager talks about, oh, I've learned a lot from today when they get beat. I've learned a lot. So he mentioned that as well, which I'm never entirely sure about. A very long interview.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like, I quite like the Sandra, the Queen of South interview, but it's just like, just when you think the interview has reached its natural conclusion, no, there's a slightly different question about a very specific element of the match. So you're always kept on your toes. And then Michael Tidza said that it's a culmination of what Kelty Hearts are doing, and it's his job to make the lone players better. And certainly, like Williamson, maybe got that move to Queen's Park a wee bit too soon. It's a gamble. I think Queen's Park had done that. Is it last season, the season prior, where they signed Scott Williamson? They signed Aaron Healy from Arthurlie. Obviously, Scott Williamson came from Cambuslang Rangers. So you're taking the very best players from the West of Scotland League and giving them full-time training. And they're probably inexpensive gambles, but gambles you can get away with. And while it's not worked out with Healy, he was back at Arthurlie. Williamson, certainly at this level right now, is showing that he has got a lot to offer. So you'd hope that he gets a chance to go back and get a shot at Queen's Park whenever the opportunity comes. I'm not sure when his loan's up, if it's in January or if it's at the end of the season. But based on what we're seeing now, he could be a useful. I know like goals are a bit of a premium for Queen's Park at the moment, but certainly some of that bustling style of his could offer Callum Davidson's side something.
Yeah, I mean, based on Saturday, he could play at a higher level. And you're right. I think if there's one criticism of no criticism, but definitely one area where they're lacking is definitely up top. So if there is the facility, I suppose, to recall him in January, then maybe they will do that.
Yeah. Anything else to be said about this game, or anything else about League One you want to talk about? Anything you want to ask me about League One, a team that's doing particularly well in League One at the moment?
I think we might be talking about Stenny in the Patreon. Will we keep it for that?
Go on, just ask me one question about Stenny 3, Dumbarton 1.
How excited are you by this Stenny team?
I'm keeping my feet in the ground, but my head's well and truly in the clouds. I'll leave it at that. No, it was good. It was good. The match, Dumbarton are perhaps the poorest side that I've seen in the division this season. I'd say they were poorer than Annan. Although Annan lost 5-1 when the sides met at Elco View, Annan missed a penalty and could have come right back into the match. And I think that, weirdly enough, similar to what Peter Murphy said about that the Queen's Kelty game, it felt quite similar where everything Stenny hit seemed to go in. But just at the weekend, outside of like a 7 or 8 minute spell around the time that Dumbarton pulled their goal back, it was all Stenny. Like Stenny were miles ahead of them. And Dumbarton, some good players in the team. I think Big Mohamed Niang is a very, very strong, very powerful player. I really like the look of him. And Michael Ruth's just a really good, really clever player. Other than that, I'd be worried. And I think for Dumbarton as well, you go from 6 consecutive draws to 2 back-to-back defeats, and you're thinking, right, well, we're not playing that badly. The results haven't necessarily reflected the performances, but that was really poor from them, and I'd be a wee bit concerned. I know Mark Durnan was missing; he'd been suspended from the defeat to Queen of the South after being sent off there in that match. But even then, they miles off it.
I mean, admittedly, you did get a rub of the green when Gregor Buchanan literally started leathering Brett Long when he was on the deck.
I was scratching my neck at that point and looked away, so I didn't see it. But I saw there was one Dumbarton fan in Pine Bovril who was outraged, and you'd left your comment in the game, and he said, "I can't believe that Stennismuir fans aren't talking about it." It was a bit of bad luck. That's how I'd describe it.
There isn't any. The only highlights of this are on the SPFL's kind of goals kind of show thing that they put on YouTube. There isn't any official highlights, is there? I tried finding it. I tried looking, but I didn't see it.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I know that it's not something that Dumbarton have offered for a while, and it's something that Stennismuir used to do. But obviously, there's difficulties that have been ongoing all season in terms of match highlights and so on. They'd posted a tweet there congratulating Matty Aitken had a really good game here, and he got picked for the SPFL Team of the Week, which covers all 4 divisions. But on Twitter they tagged in somebody called Matty97 who doesn't exist, and they congratulated him being the League One Team of the Week, despite the fact there was a couple of Celtic players and maybe somebody for Falkirk that was in there. So yeah, work to be done.
But funnily enough, just to clarify though, although the SPFL's goal show concentrates primarily on goals, as you would imagine, it did show Buchanan kicking Brett Long. He really did stick the boot in. Just you missed it by scratching your neck. Just thought I would give you an update on that.
Just like that, you're kind of not looking. Then that's
not your neck though. That's your chin.
Weirdly enough, actually, when Paddy O'Neill came on, the match swung slightly in Dumbarton's favour. They began to play with a greater degree of enterprise than they had done previously.
But Gregor Buchanan should have been sent off, so you should have been there at 10 men.
Well, if you focus on the ifs and buts, Sean, you'd never get anything done.
That's true.
Now, It was Andrea True who sang the 1979 banger More, More, More. But if she had been watching Scottish Lower League football this weekend, she might have changed the title to Goals, Goals, Goals. Because we're off to Bayview, where East Fife climbed to the top of League Two after crushing Bonnyrigg Rose 5-0. And weirdly enough, Sean, this is the first time they've ever beaten them at Bayview. First time in 5 attempts where they've beaten them at Bayview.
Well, you know something, this is interesting because I thought we were going to talk about Peterhead Elgin. However, I have watched East Fife versus Bonnyrigg, so that's absolutely fine.
All right, did we talk about Peterhead now? I thought we were going to talk about East Fife 5. I've got tons of notes for this match.
That's fine. I've already watched it. That's cool.
That's good. Well, I'll ask you about Peterhead Elgin very shortly. Well, the Rosy Posy were reduced to 10 men after 14 minutes. Greg Allen was sent off for the denial of a goal-scoring opportunity, and the Fifers well and truly went to town. Alan Troughton got a hat-trick before an own... I'm really unlucky. Pretty much, this own goal summed up the Rosies' day. Tom Ritchie scored an own goal, and then little Andrew Todd added the gloss at the end. He looked like he had a really good game here, yeah. Andrew Todd. Fifers flying high, 7 wins from 8 games, superlative run of form. Only team they've lost in that time, Stranraer, of all the sides. But in fact, Bonnyrigg, I don't know what Bonnyrigg are because I've not written it down. I think they are 7th. I'm going to shoot 7th.
They're not quite as... I thought they were a bit lower than when I checked the division. So they're still doing okay position-wise, but yes. I felt a wee bit sorry for them on Saturday.
Yeah, because they started well. Callum Connolly really should have opened the scoring. Lee Curry plays a really, really nice... It's a great ball in, and all he needs to do is just don't hit it straight at the goalkeeper and it goes in. But no, Callum Connolly hits it straight at Alan Fleming and it doesn't go in. And I think they had another chance. I don't think it was really saying this is something that Callum Elliott. I think Alan Troughton himself.
Higginbotham. I thought it...
That's right.
At 1-0, I still thought that Bonnyrigg were pushing at that point, and maybe to a degree looked the likelier side to score. Higginbotham was in a decent position, and I think it was a good opportunity, and he just got too much on it. I think it went kind of curled it wide and over the bar, and he should have done better. And I suppose at that point, if East Fife get the second goal, then you're down to 10 men, you're 2-0 down, and then you probably just capitulate. And it maybe didn't quite work out that way because Bonnyrigg were still okay for large spells of the game, so I did feel a bit sorry for them. But actually, by full time, it could have been more than 5. I mean, yeah. East Fife ultimately just ran away with it.
That's what I watched the Callum Elliott, Alan Troughton and Ian Campbell's post-match interviews, and they're all the same consensus. It was never a 5-0 game. Bonnyrigg should, certainly going by the early skirmishes, should have taken something from it. And the match really seemed to flip on Greg Allen's red card. Certainly it annoyed the Bonnyrigg Rose Supporters Club. Real loser behaviour for them because they named their man of the match as Alex Shepherd, the referee. How funny.
But that also doesn't... I didn't think it made any sense. Like, why would they award him the man of the match?
Yeah.
Like, if they're annoyed at him, like, why would they give him the man of the match?
That's a very good question. You can see the thinking behind it, but when you start asking questions, it just crumbles. It just crumbles under the power of logic. But did you think it was a penalty? It's Andy Todd. I think it's the ball's flicked on. Nathan Austin wins a header. Alan Troughton then flicks it into the path of Todd, who I thought it was a foul myself. Although there seems to be a great degree of dubiety as whether or not it was, but I looked from the angle, I thought it was a foul. I thought Todd was brought down by Alan.
Yeah, I thought it was a foul as well, and it wasn't as if it was just a coming together. I did think he caught him. I suppose at that point, referee then has to decide, well, did he mean it, or was he attempting to play the ball? I mean, maybe it was very, very difficult to say, but I mean, I wasn't astonished it was a red card. Put it that way. Yeah,
me neither. And Alan Troughton, best in the business, does what he does, steps up, just gives Tom Ritchie the eyes, sends him the wrong way. And then the second goal, this perhaps took the wind out of Bonnyrig's sails a little bit because it's a corner and they don't deal with the second phase where it's Kieran Miller chips it back into the box and there's Troughton, very wonky offside trap. And I thought Ritchie could have done a wee bit better because the ball comes to Troughton, who's unmarked, and just sends a header looping over him. And I think if the goalkeeper might have read the situation better, could have been out there to deal with Miller's ball and maybe just comes out, get it, flattens Troughton, wins the ball, and you've lost it. The attack's gone. But the fact it was, you can see because it's like quite a loopy ball in from Miller.
It was just poorly defended all round, wasn't it? I mean, there's probably probably about 3 defenders that come out at random times trying to play offside that didn't work. You're right. The keeper maybe could have been a bit cleverer, but it was just rubbish defending in general.
Yeah. Yeah, and I suppose to back into what we were saying about how Bonnyrigg were perhaps hard done by, even the commentator was really good. These five commentators are generally great highlights package from these 5. Mm-hmm. Even he said that the second goal was against the run of play. Yeah. It's funny, isn't it, how you think highlights just give you the best bits of the game. They don't really indicate the patterns of play. You think, wow, Bonnyrigg must have been absolutely fucking thumped. But then everyone's saying, well, actually, guys, they were a bit hard done by. And then the Troughton gets his hat-trick, close-range header, Adam Lareth. And Adam Lareth, anytime we've spoken about East Fife, I'm sure he's actually done some pretty good stuff. Like he's setting up goals or he's scoring himself.
He probably has a reputation as a bit of a super sub. That's like a decent label to have.
Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
I suppose if he keeps producing, then he starts to get that. I mean, I'll need to go back and look, but I really feels like that that it generally starts on the bench, but then does create something when he gets off it. Yeah,
we mentioned the 4th goal. Terrible luck for Tom Ritchie, because it's Todd has a shot from the edge of the area. It hits the underside of the bar, but comes down and whacks off his back and goes in. And that kind of sums up Bonnyrigg's day.
I felt sorry for him because it goes in off his back, but then I also felt sorry for, like at that moment, I felt sorry for Todd, because I was like, because I wasn't entirely sure. I'd seen that Todd had been credited with a goal, but I actually wondered if it had been the 4th. And I was like, you're going to get that goal taken off you. So I was actually kind of relieved that he ended up getting the 5th, because obviously that was now officially his first ever senior career goal.
Yeah, it's a good goal as well, right at the very end. It's a corner to the near post, and there's Todd up to get it. And he looked as though that he enjoyed himself here. Obviously scoring your first professional goal would mean a lot to you, but he really looks as though he added something here, certainly involved with a lot of the attacks. I'm sure it was it wasn't him. They're just jumping back a step. Bonnyrigg were unhappy. I think Callum Elliott in his interview was unhappy at the award of a corner, which led to the 3rd goal, Troughton's goal. I think that Sean Docherty, he thinks there was a foul there rather than a corner. Sean Docherty fouled the Bonnyrigg player. Hard to tell.
Yeah, let's face it, you're clutching at straws by that point if you're moaning about a corner that led to a 3rd goal and a 5-0 defeat. You're kind of complaining for the sake of it.
Aye, but Todd looked good here, and there is something quite endearing about him, and it's obviously the fact he looks like somebody that's found a pair of magic football boots and has been good. And let's be honest, it's because he wears the glasses, and there is something that's very endearing about that. But he does look like he's got something about him.
Yeah, I did wonder because he initially came through at Dunfermline, and there was not big things expected of him, but there was certainly an excitement when he started getting in and around the first team, and I think he was certainly finding opportunities hard to come by, and you wondered how, at what level he was maybe going to be able to have a career at. But absolutely, based on his start, I mean, bear in mind he's still so young, but certainly his start at East Fife would suggest that he will have some kind of career. But he plays football with a kind of smile on his face.
Yeah.
And certainly he's holding his own at that level, so fair play to him.
He's quite rangy as well. He's probably quite gangly. I'd describe him. And I think that once he grows into his boy, you can tell when he was jumping up for headers and so on. He's definitely got a bit of presence about him. But
I feel like he's grown up the way, which is good. But if he could start to grow out the way, then that'll make a massive difference.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just trying to think. There was Ian Campbell, delighted with a clean sheet, obviously delighted going to the top of the table, but again, as we mentioned there, thought the scoreline flattered his side. And Elliot, you said that the scoreline flattered East Fife, but even when they were down to 10 men, he still thought the game was there to be won, had to go for it, and said after the 3rd that was it. Very passive aggressive towards the referee, obviously, and said that I could say, but I'd just get in trouble for it.
So he decided to get the login details for their supporters club Twitter and.
What's your Canva login? Give me your details for Canva as well. Can I make up this graphic? But that's we're talking at the very top of the table, Sean. What happened in the Peterhead 0 Elgin City 1 game? I've not had the chance to watch this.
Not too much, to be fair. But Elgin, defensively, Elgin looked really, really good. They've yet to lose this season. Probably just shaded the first half. Peterhead had the better of the second half. Rory McAllister missed a couple of good chances. Certainly one where he was played through just to keep it a beat. Tried to dink it. Well, he did dink it over the keeper, but also wide of the post. And it was quite funny because his momentum. Obviously, Peterhead have advertised loans that are very close to the park. So his momentum took him over that, as in his kind of upper body went over it. And you know how the fans at Peterhead are all around him.
Yeah, they all bang the advertising boards.
I know. So he's now kind of leaning over the advertising hoarding, and he's right next to this old guy. Like the guy looks like old guy. I mean, the guy's in his 50s, but the old guy just starts like rubbing him as if to say, they're there. It'll be fine. That'll be fine. But no, I thought it was quite funny. Afterwards, Ryan Strachan was interviewed, and he said that it was the first game they'd lost at home domestically. And I was like, I don't think you've been in any continental competitions where you've lost at home. But no, I suppose like really impressive for Elgin in terms of no defeats so far, but just drawn too many games. I think our top goal scorers like Dingwall for the middle of the park with 4. I think it's Jack Murray has got 3. So probably where it feels like they're probably going to come up a wee bit short maybe in terms of having a goal scorer. That might hold them back.
They've chucked it away as well. I mean, against, like for instance, the other week there against Edinburgh, to score in injury time and then to chuck away 2 points in injury time as well, that's frustrating. But I suppose, though, you'd rather be drawing games than losing games. Of
course, yeah. And if I suppose it's one of those situations where it goes one of two ways. If they start turning draws into wins, then yes, they could maybe challenge East Fife, and I would presume that Peterhead will be there or thereabouts. If it goes the other way, suddenly those draws turn into defeats, and maybe they become a mid-table team. But certainly, considering where Elgin have been recently in terms of a team at the bottom of the table, Alan Hale seems to be doing a very, very good job, and I do expect them to be top 4.
I think they'll finish top 4 as well. I think that East Fife, Peterhead, Spartans would be the other side. I know they've found life this season a bit more difficult. No scoring goals, which is a big problem that they're having. But I think Elgin are in that conversation now. Signed well in the summer. Some really good players from the Highland League. Mark Gallagher taking him back. A lot to like about Elgin. Funny you mentioned about Rory McAllister flying over the advertising hoardings. You ever seen the video from the English Premier League from a couple of years ago? I think it's Aston Villa are playing at Liverpool, and it's Gabby Agbonlahor goes flying over the advertising holders, and there's a guy who's just like, whoo-hoo, and he just takes out his phone out of his pocket and takes a picture of him.
Not at Peterhead. At Peterhead, they just try and rub him better.
Aye, that's I'd prefer that. I'd prefer being rubbed than somebody laughing and taking a photograph of me. But Sean, we'll probably leave it. I hope you don't feel shortchanged. I mean, Sean, this is a podcast an hour long, and you're getting this for free, so you shouldn't really be feeling shortchanged. Sean and I are going to do a bonus podcast for the Terrace Patreon. We're going to be looking at 3 lower league sides that have had a good first quarter to the season, and 3 lower league sides who have had a very bad first quarter to the season. And if you want to listen to that podcast, you'll have to get your checkbooks out, because it's on the Terrace Patreon. There's hundreds of podcasts up there, and it'll cost you as little as £2 a month to get it. So why not? Sounds good.
Might as well.
Now, the Scotland national team are playing this weekend in the Nations League. There's a big Edinburgh derby in League 2. I think I'm going to go to that. Edinburgh City versus the Spartans. A handful of SPFL Trust Trophy games. So there really is plenty of options for the discerning lower league football fan. And if you're heading along to one of those games, please enjoy your football. But unlike the Bonnyrigg Rose Supporters Club and their vile graphic, please try and do so respectfully. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
And thank you to you, the listener. Take care. Goodbye. God bless.